Continuing on, we're going to try to find a general form equation for the line through -3/8 and 4, -1. Now this is kind of a pain in the patoot because the general form or the standard form of the equation, there's not much you can tell from it. It's the least useful form of an equation. The main use of the standard form of an equation of a line is to find the x and the y-intercept. So we're going to go ahead and use our point-slope formula. We have to find the slope. We need two things to get the equation of a line, point and slope, and here we don't have the slope. So when we find the slope, we do y minus y over x minus x. You'd end up with -1/8 divided by 4 minus -3. So you end up with -9/7. Watch your signs on the slope. Remember that it's minus, and if you got a minus, that's a plus. Then we're going to use the point-slope formula and pick either point to use for the coordinates of x and y. So I'm going to use slope times x minus x1 plus y1. Slope is -9/7. It goes right in here for the m. And I'll probably use 4 for the x and -1 for the y, just because those seem like simpler numbers to work with. When I plug those in, I end up with this. So after I do the substitutions, 9/7 times x minus 4 minus 1, I'm going to, since I need to put this into general form, I need to simplify by multiplying through by the -9/7. And in order to simplify this part of the equation, 36/7 minus 1. Remember that 1 is the same as 7/7. So 36 minus 7 is 29. Now this is the slope-intercept form. This would be the y-intercept, but they ask us for the general form, which is also known as the standard form. So that means I need x and y on one side of the number, on one side, and numbers on the other. Needs to be in the form of ax plus by equals c. A has to be positive and there can't be any fractions or decimals. Well, since there can't be any fractions or decimals, first thing I'm going to do is multiply through by 7. And when I do that, I get 7y equals -9x plus 29. I multiplied by 7 because that's my denominator to clear my fractions out. Now that I need to bring this x over to the left-hand side, so I have an x and a y on the left and just number on the right. So when I add the 9x on both sides, I end up with 9x plus 7y equals 29. This is the normal standard form of an equation, a linear equation. Your book has it set equal to 0. So if I subtracted the 29, it'd be set equal to 0. But this is fine for our purposes. And I like this way better because it is easier to find the x and y intercept. All right, slope-intercept form of the equation, through 4/2 and -3/1. For the two things you need are slope and a point. We do not have the slope, so you have to go ahead and find the slope. So we're going to find the slope, and that's going to be 2 minus 1 over 4 minus -3, which gives us 1/7. Then we use the point-slope formula and pick either point, solve for y. That's our steps. So 1/7 goes in for slope. I think I used the 4 and the 2. X minus 4 plus 2, plug those in for the x and the y coordinate, multiply through by the 1/7 and simplify. So 1/7 x minus 4/7 plus 2. In order to combine the -4/7 and the 2, you need a common denominator. That common denominator is 7. 2 is the same as 14/7. So -4/7 plus 14/7 is 10/7, and you're done. That is now in slope-intercept format. Now we're going to talk about graphing these in your calculator, and I think you've had some experience graphing equations in your calculator. You notice that there's an upper left button right under your screen that's y equals. So we have to solve for y. That's our first step. Then we can put that into the y equals. So if we solve for y, all I need to do is subtract 2x from both sides. I end up with y equals -2x plus 35. Now then, we need to find the x and the y intercepts because it asks us to choose a viewing window that shows that the line intersecting both the x and y axes. That's where it crosses the x and the y axis. So that it crosses the x-axis at the x-intercept and the y-axis at the y-intercept. In order to find the x-intercept, you may recall that you put a 0 in for y and solve for x. Let y equal 0 and solve. So 2x plus 0, I went back up here. Like I said, that's easiest to find the y and x intercepts is using this one. 2x plus 0 equals 35. Divide by 2, you get 17.5. So we know that our x max has to include that 17.5. Y-intercept's easy because we had it in that format right here. So the y-intercept is 35, which means our y-max has to be bigger than or equal to 35. So when we set the window, the x-max has to be larger than 17.5 and the y-max has to be larger than 35. So let's see how this works. So if you have your graphing calculator there, let's put this one in. First, click the y equals button and input the negative 2x plus 35. This is what you should have on your screen. Then you're going to hit the window button and change the x-min and so on. So if you hit the window button, here's what you should have. -1, 20, 1, -1, 40. I picked 20 and 40, but just so long as the x-max is bigger than 17.5 and the y-max is bigger than 35, you're good to go. Lastly, we're going to push the graph button. When you hit the graph button, this is what you can see. The reason these are so weird over here is because when we did the window, we left the scale there on the y-axis as 1. And this is a lot. That's 41 units. Another note about the window here, I chose -1 so that I could see the x-axis and the y-axis. If you put 0 here and 0 here, it knocks off your axes. So I always put -1 to make sure that those show up. Alright, let's look at this guy. This is a twist to what you have done in times past. They give us a linear equation and they say find the value of x and y for which these 2 points would be on the graph of this equation. Well, if they're on the graph, they're solutions to this. They make it true. So all we need to do is plug them in to this equation and solve. So since they're both on the graph, they make the equation true, plug them in and solve. So we're going to put an x here for x because that's the x coordinate and a 14 for the y. If we plug those in, you get 14 equals -2x plus 18 minus 18 from both sides and then divide by 2 and you -2 and you get x equals 2. That one's done. Then 18y, we'll put an 18 for the x and leave y as y. So if I put an 18 in, I'll have -2 times 18 plus 18. When I combine the like terms there, I get y equals -18. And that's the end of this first little part. Hopefully that was a quick review of linear equations and some stuff that you already knew and that you might have needed refreshing on. I'll see you later.